Have you ever spoken only to regret it later? Or found yourself filling the silence when saying nothing would have been far more powerful? In a world drowning in noise, where opinions are shared before thoughts are even complete, true wisdom lies in knowing when to stay silent. Think about Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time. He once said, "The ability to keep your mouth shut is a tremendous asset." He listens, he observes, and when he speaks, the world listens. Steve Jobs, too, mastered the power of silence, using long pauses to command attention, influence discussions, and lead with authority. Silence isn't passivity, it is power, strategy, and self-mastery. It protects your energy, sharpens your judgment, and earns you respect. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius Seneca and Epictetus, knew this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In this video, you will discover 8 crucial moments when silence will make you wiser, stronger, and more respected. By the end, you won't just understand the power of silence, you will know how to use it as a tool for success. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. The power of silence in conflict. When someone provokes you, when their words are meant to irritate, offend, or drag you into conflict, the instinct is to react, to defend yourself, to fire back with a clever retort. But here's the truth. Every reaction you give only hands them more power. Silence, on the other hand, is a weapon of control. It disarms the provocateur, leaving them with nothing to feed on. Think about a time when someone made a cutting remark about you in front of others. Maybe a colleague questioned your competence in a meeting, or a relative made a passive-aggressive jab at a family gathering. The air thickened as everyone awaited your response. You felt the sting, the urge to correct them, to prove them wrong. But what if, instead, you simply paused, took a breath, and let their words hang in the air? That silence alone would make them uncomfortable, forcing them to face the weight of what they just said. Their attempt to undermine you would lose its power, and without your reaction, they would look small, not you. This is the brilliance of silence. It turns an attack into a reflection of the attacker's character, rather than yours. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "If someone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself against their accusations. Instead, reply, 'You obviously don't know me well, for you have overlooked my other faults.'" This isn't just wit, it's wisdom. It reminds us that we are not obligated to take every insult personally or waste energy on baseless provocations. Look at history's most composed leaders. Barack Obama, known for his unshakable calm, often responded to criticism with measured silence, letting his actions speak louder than any verbal counterattack. Even in today's world, the most respected individuals aren't the ones who argue over every slight, but those who remain steady in the face of provocation. Now, think about your own life. Have you ever been pulled into an unnecessary argument only to regret it later? Maybe a driver cut you off in traffic and you honked and shouted, feeling your blood pressure rise, but what did it change? Or perhaps a co-worker sent a snide email and you crafted a sharp response, only to realize later that silence would have made a bigger impact. The next time someone tries to provoke you, try this. Pause for 5 seconds before responding. Ask yourself, will my words change the outcome, or am I just feeding their need for attention? More often than not, silence is the answer. And don't mistake it for weakness. Choosing not to engage doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means you control your emotions, not them. It means you understand that not every battle is worth fighting, and some victories are won through restraint, not retaliation. If you're ready to master the art of silence and protect your inner peace, comment below. I choose strength over reaction. Let's rise above the noise and embrace the wisdom of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. 2. Mastering silence in anger. Anger rises like a sudden storm. Your pulse quickens, your breath shortens, and words rush to the tip of your tongue, ready to strike. But in that split second, you have a choice. React and risk saying something you'll regret, or stay silent and maintain control. One of history's greatest leaders, Abraham Lincoln, understood this well. He had a habit of writing hot letters, pouring out his anger onto paper, but he never sent them. By the time he reread them, his emotions had cooled, and silence proved to be the wiser path. Think about that in your own life. How many times have you sent a text or fired off an email in the heat of the moment, only to wish you could take it back? Anger blinds us to consequences, but silence gives us space to think. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius warned, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. A harsh word spoken in anger can linger far longer than the moment itself, leaving wounds that take years to heal. Picture yourself in a heated argument with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger online. You feel the urge to defend yourself, to prove a point, to strike back with the perfect comeback. But what if, instead, you simply paused? Imagine sitting in a meeting where a co-worker criticizes your work. Your first instinct is to push back, to justify yourself, to prove them wrong. But what happens if you stay silent instead? The weight of their words suddenly falls back on them. They expected a reaction, but without it, their attempt to provoke you loses its power. Your silence speaks louder than any argument could. Modern psychology supports what the Stoics already knew. The amygdala, the part of the brain that controls emotions, takes about 6 seconds to calm down after being triggered. If you can hold back for just those 6 seconds, you prevent your emotions from taking control of you. Try this. The next time anger rises, use the 10-second rule. Pause. Take a deep breath. Count to 10 before saying anything. Then ask yourself, will my words improve this situation, or will they make it worse? More often than not, silence will serve you better. And this isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about self-respect. A wise man once said, never waste your words on someone who deserves your silence. But let's take it further. Never waste your words on a moment that deserves your self-control. Now, I challenge you, for 1 week, track the times you almost reacted in anger, but chose silence instead. At the end of the week, reflect. Did your silence give you more control? Did it shift how others responded to you? If you're ready to embrace this challenge, drop a comment below. I will master my silence. Let's commit to protecting our peace, one moment at a time. 3. The strength of silent understanding. Speaking before fully understanding is one of the easiest traps to fall into. How often do we jump into conversations, eager to sound informed, only to later realize we were missing crucial pieces of the puzzle? It happens in debates, meetings, and even casual discussions. You're in a conversation about a complex issue, and the urge to contribute pushes you to speak. You offer your opinion, thinking you understand the topic well enough. Then, someone presents a perspective you hadn't considered, and suddenly, your confidence wavers. That's the danger of mistaking partial knowledge for true understanding. Socrates, one of history's greatest thinkers, famously said, "I know that I know nothing." This wasn't self-deprecation, it was wisdom. True intelligence lies not in speaking first, but in listening, absorbing, and questioning. Consider a workplace scenario. Your boss presents a challenging problem, and in an attempt to appear competent, you immediately suggest a solution. But moments later, a colleague, someone who stayed silent, observed and thought critically, asks a question that exposes the complexity you overlooked. Your rushed response now feels shallow, and you realize that silence would have served you far better. Why does this happen? Because we fear looking uninformed. We equate quick answers with intelligence. But the paradox is this: the wisest people aren't the ones who talk the most, but the ones who are comfortable with silence. Epictetus warned, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." Yet in today's world, silence is often mistaken for ignorance. Social media rewards quick takes over thoughtful reflection, and conversations are often competitions rather than exchanges of wisdom. But what if you resisted the urge to speak too soon? What if you allowed yourself the space to truly understand before responding? Picture yourself in a classroom where a difficult question is asked. Some students rush to answer, eager to show their knowledge. But you pause, take a moment to reflect, and when you finally speak, your words carry weight. Not because you were the first, but because you were the most thoughtful. Now, think back to a time when you misjudged a situation. Maybe you assumed you knew all the facts, only to later realize how little you truly understood. How did it feel when the truth surfaced? Silence have served you better? Here's a challenge for you. Practice the listen first rule. The next time you're in a discussion, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, do I fully understand this, or am I speaking from assumption? If uncertainty lingers, stay silent, not as avoidance, but as a mark of strength and wisdom. The most respected thinkers, leaders, and innovators don't speak to fill silence. They speak when they have something meaningful to say. If you're ready to embrace this mindset, drop a comment below. I will listen first. Let's see how many of us are willing to trade impulsive speech for thoughtful wisdom, because in the end, the loudest voices fade, but the words of the wise endure. 4. Silence is the smartest response. Few things are as tempting as correcting someone who is clearly wrong, but what do you truly gain from arguing with a fool? When someone speaks not to seek truth, but to assert dominance, win an argument, or provoke a reaction, engaging with them only drags you into their game. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best answer to anger is silence," and this applies to foolishness too. Picture a family gathering where an uncle confidently shares opinions on a topic he barely understands. He dismisses facts, ignores logic, and speaks as if he holds absolute truth. You feel the urge to correct him, to present evidence, to make him see reason. But deep down, you know the truth. He isn't looking to learn, only to be right. No matter what you say, he will double down, and soon, what could have been an enjoyable evening turns into a frustrating debate that leads nowhere. Now, think about a work situation. You've spent months on a project, and in a meeting, A colleague who barely understands it makes a bold, yet completely inaccurate statement. The room turns to you, expecting a response. You could argue, prove him wrong, and make it clear that he doesn't know what he's talking about. But would it change his mind? Or would it simply escalate into unnecessary conflict? Instead, you choose silence. You don't engage, and in that moment, his ignorance is laid bare for all to see. This is what the Stoics mastered, the ability to let foolishness collapse under its own weight. Seneca once said, "What difference does it make how much a man knows if he is wrong about what he knows?" The more you argue with someone who refuses to listen, the more you feed their ego and exhaust yourself in the process. Think back. When was the last time you debated someone who wasn't open to understanding? Did it change their perspective, or did it only leave you frustrated? The truth is, trying to correct people who don't want to learn is like shouting into the wind. It takes energy, but nothing truly changes. So here's a challenge. The next time you find yourself confronted with someone arguing just for the sake of it, stay silent. Observe. Let them talk. Without resistance, their words lose power. Without opposition, their argument crumbles. Your silence is not surrender. It is wisdom, discipline, and control. And if you take it one step further, you'll see that silence is not just a way to avoid conflict, but a way to lead by example. People learn more from what we do than what we say. When they see you refusing to engage in meaningless debates, they begin to understand that wisdom is not in speaking the loudest, but in knowing when words are unnecessary. If you're ready to embrace this mindset, comment below, "I choose silence over foolishness." Let's commit to rising above petty arguments and keeping our energy for what truly matters. Because in the end, a fool's words are their own downfall. They don't need your help to prove it. 5. The power of silent listening. Not every silence is about self-control. Sometimes it's the greatest gift you can offer. We often believe that helping someone means giving advice, fixing their problems, or offering encouragement. But what if the most powerful way to support someone is simply to stay silent and listen? Think about a time when you met a friend who was clearly carrying a heavy burden. Maybe they were struggling with work stress, a failing relationship, or personal doubts. As they spoke, you felt the urge to jump in, to reassure them, to suggest solutions. But what if, instead of speaking, you let them have the space to fully express themselves? What if, instead of interrupting with answers, you just sat with them in their moment of struggle? Abraham Lincoln understood this well. During the Civil War, when people came to him filled with frustration and uncertainty, he didn't rush to fix things. He listened. He knew that people don't always need solutions. Sometimes they just need to feel heard. Think back to when you felt overwhelmed. Maybe you were dealing with a problem and just needed to vent, but before you could even finish, someone interrupted with advice. "You're overthinking it. Just do this instead." And suddenly, you didn't feel understood. You felt dismissed. Their words, though well-intended, made the conversation about them, their wisdom, their need to help. But what if instead they had just listened? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In today's world, where everyone is eager to talk, few people truly listen. And that's why mastering the art of silent listening is so powerful. It isn't just about being quiet, it's about being present. It's about allowing the other person to hear themselves think, to process their own emotions without interruption. Now imagine a different version of that coffee shop conversation. Your friend begins venting, and instead of reacting immediately, you simply listen. You nod, you maintain eye contact, and you let them finish. And then something incredible happens. As they keep speaking, they start finding their own clarity. They say things like, "Now that I say it out loud, I think I know what I need to do." You didn't need to give advice. Your silence created the space they needed to reach their own understanding. This is the power of listening. It builds trust. It strengthens relationships. It makes you someone people feel safe opening up to, not because you have all the answers, but because you know when words aren't needed. So ask yourself, are you truly listening, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? The next time someone opens up to you, resist the urge to give advice right away. Just listen. Let them finish. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, do they need a solution, or do they just need to be heard? If you're unsure, say nothing. A simple nod, a gentle, "I hear you," or a moment of silence can be more powerful than any advice you could give. Try this for 1 week. When someone vents, stay silent, be present, and observe the shift in their energy. If this resonates with you, comment below. I will listen more than I speak. Let's commit to becoming the kind of people others can trust, not because we have all the answers, but because we know when to simply be there. Because in the end, wisdom isn't just about knowing what to say, it's about knowing when to stay silent. 6. The wisdom of knowing less. Silence in the face of ignorance is not weakness, it is wisdom. Yet, how often do people speak with certainty about things they barely understand? We've all seen it, and maybe we've done it ourselves, confidently expressing opinions based on half-truths, eager to sound informed. Picture this. You're at a social gathering, and the conversation shifts to cryptocurrency. You've skimmed a few articles, heard some buzzwords, and before you know it, you're talking about blockchain, market trends, and investments. For a moment, you feel knowledgeable. Then, someone who truly understands the topic asks a technical question, one you can't answer. The room goes quiet. In an instant, your credibility crumbles, not because you didn't know, but because you pretended you did. This is the danger of speaking beyond your depth. We often think that staying silent makes us look uninformed, but in reality, speaking without understanding does far more damage. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this well. He once said, "If anyone can prove me wrong, I will gladly change. It is the truth I seek, not my own ego." True intelligence is not about knowing everything, it's about seeking truth, even if it means admitting ignorance. Think about a time when you spoke about something you weren't fully sure of. Maybe it was at work, trying to impress colleagues, or in a debate where you realized midway that your argument had no real foundation. How did it feel when you were challenged? Did your words add value, or did they expose your lack of understanding? Warren Buffett, one of the world's greatest investors, has a simple rule: only speak when you have something truly valuable to say. He listens more than he speaks, knowing that silence preserves power, while empty words expose weakness. And when he finally does speak, people listen. This principle applies everywhere, in business, relationships, and leadership. Speaking without full understanding doesn't just make you look unprepared. It has real consequences. Think of a leader making a rushed decision based on incomplete information, a doctor diagnosing without full analysis, or a politician making bold promises without knowing the reality. The damage from speaking too soon can be irreversible. So, how do we break the habit of speaking just to be heard? Try this. For the next 48 hours, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, do I fully understand this topic? If the answer is anything less than absolute clarity, stay silent. Observe, absorb. Notice how many conversations are filled with words that add nothing. Watch how often people speak just to fill space rather than to offer real insight. By the end of 48 hours, you may discover that silence isn't just about withholding words, it's about gaining clarity, refining thought, and ensuring that when you do speak, your words truly matter. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below. I choose wisdom over unnecessary speech. Let's commit to speaking less, but saying more. Because in the end, a fool speaks to impress, but the wise speak only to add value. 7. Let success speak for itself. Success is a moment of achievement, a result of discipline, resilience, and effort. When we reach a milestone, the natural instinct is to share it, to announce our victory, to seek recognition, and to enjoy the validation of others. But true success doesn't need an audience. Sometimes, the most powerful way to handle success is through silence. Why? Because silence after success shows humility, self-discipline, and an understanding that success is not the final destination, it is just another step on the journey. Those who boast about their achievements often invite envy, distractions, and unnecessary expectations, while those who remain quiet stay focused on growth, allowing their results to speak for themselves. Think of a time when you shared an accomplishment too soon. Did it bring you the satisfaction you expected, or did it invite opinions, comparisons, or even jealousy? Now think about a time when you kept a victory to yourself, allowing the feeling of personal achievement to settle in without external validation. Which felt more fulfilling? Lao Tzu once said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." This doesn't mean you should never celebrate your success, but it reminds us that real achievement doesn't need to be announced. It is evident in your work, your actions, and your progress. Imagine earning a promotion at work and choosing not to announce it. Instead of seeking praise, you maintain your dedication, performing at the same high level as before. Over time, people notice your leadership, your consistency, and your growth, not because you told them, but because your success is undeniable. This quiet confidence is far more powerful than any declaration. On the other hand, those who loudly proclaim every success often find themselves trapped by expectations, constantly trying to prove themselves rather than focusing on continued improvement. Warren Buffett, one of the most respected investors in the world, rarely speaks about his wealth or success. Instead, he listens, learns, and lets his results do the talking. His silence is not secrecy, it is wisdom. He understands that success is not about proving yourself to others, but about staying committed to what truly matters. The same applies to every aspect of life, from personal growth to business to relationships. The more you focus on action rather than validation, the more powerful your success becomes. So here's a challenge. The next time you accomplish something significant, resist the urge to announce it immediately. Instead, Reflect on what that success means to you. Share it only with those who genuinely matter, the people who supported you along the way. Observe how it feels to keep your achievements close, free from external noise. You may find that success feels even sweeter when it is protected by silence. If this resonates with you, comment below. I will let my success speak for itself. Let's commit to celebrating quietly, staying humble, and focusing on the path ahead. Because in the end, the strongest achievements don't need to be shouted, they are simply seen. Mastering the art of silence is more than just withholding words. It is a tool for wisdom, self-control, and inner peace. As we've seen from great minds like Marcus Aurelius, Abraham Lincoln, and Warren Buffett, knowing when to stay silent is a sign of strength, not weakness. In a world that constantly demands attention, those who embrace silence gain clarity, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and command respect through their actions rather than empty words. So, how will you apply this to your life? Will you choose silence in moments of anger, in the face of ignorance, or when wisdom calls for restraint? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When has silence made a difference for you? If you found value in this lesson, consider liking and sharing this video to help others discover the power of silence. And don't forget to subscribe to Stoic in Time for more timeless wisdom to guide your journey. Until next time, stay calm, stay wise, and let your silence speak for itself.